What's going on, everybody? Good evening to all of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys' patience on this. As you all know, during the week, I have a regular 9 to 5, so it is just difficult. Sometimes unexpected things come up. All right. I just got through work. I'm not even done. I just took a pause so I can go live. We have Albert Lanier with us, and he's going to be joining us in a second. Just wanted to make sure you guys were good. How's everyone doing? As you all come in, make sure you're hitting that like button. Have a great lineup for this afternoon or this evening, rather. We're going to be talking about, what's going on with this Umar and Marianne saga, and a little bit on uh the Candace thing, because it's a Candace thing at this point for some reason. Going after this widow is unacceptable. But and then overall, just kind of the mentality of, y'all know, we've been kind of diving into cult like mentality and personalities, and how the social media can have such a profound effect on all of this. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. It's great to get different perspectives. And even if you don't always agree on whatever the subject matter is, it is always good to get a perspective on it and to be able to kind of, just have some good dialogue on it. So we've had Albert with us once before, and we're glad to have him back, and that he's free and open. So we're gonna bring him up, you guys. Listen, make sure you drop your questions, drop your comments. We're gonna be getting to that throughout the live today, and I want to make sure that you guys um warmly welcome Albert. What's going on, Albert? How you doing? Welcome
How
back.
are you? Nice to be back
I'm doing
on
all
the
right.
Lady Luck Club. The Lady Luck
Yes.
sounds like either a reading, like a book club, or
Yeah.
maybe a gardening club or something. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, or maybe
It
it's a
actually
gambling
is a
club.
it started
If you get
no, it
right.
actually was from when I was younger, when I was a little girl. I enjoyed
Mm.
reading the Joy Luck Club books.
Oh
And
yes,
so
Amy
that's
Tan's
just kind of
book.
playing on it. So oh man, that was like my go-to. Back then we didn't have the electronics and stuff like that. And even when phones became hip, I still got one. I was a late bloomer with a cell phone. But
Right.
I read a lot. So the Joy Luck Club was my go-to pastime reading. And it was always centered around just having, kind of conversations and being able to come together to discuss matters. And I said, and even as a kid, I was like, man, what a way to kind of get group discussions going and to build up healthy debate. That's what, that's how I saw it.
Well, have you ever
What is
been?
this supposed to be about?
Have you ever been in a book club?
I have not been in a book club, not a
Oh,
formal.
interesting. Okay.
Mm-mm.
I was in a book
Yeah,
club once. It was when I was
yeah.
18. This is
Okay.
before I went to college. So was in briefly once. So I'm just curious. But,
Did you enjoy the book club?
the book I had read before. So I guess I
Oh,
was being, it was convenient for me because I had read the book before. But
hmm
yeah, I like the book. If you're
okay.
talking about the Joy Luck Club, yeah, I had to read it in college, I believe. I had to read it
Oh
in
yeah,
college.
yeah. Joy Luck Club's books is, I mean, a whole series on that. And like I said, it kind of introduced me to having group discussions and almost kind of like a debate. It's to me it was like no different. And I grew up in church, so it was no different than like Bible study. You read the book, you ask questions, you kind of summarize certain themes, and give your
Oh,
thoughts.
is that how it goes?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not
yeah,
religious,
Bible
so
study.
I'll take your word. I'll take your word for it.
Oh man, you had to do homework and stuff. It
I'm
was
used to. I'm
it was
used
something
to.
else.
I'm used to. The last time I studied was in collge, so
Oh
that's the kind
man,
of study I'm used to.
yeah, I had
I'm
to
used
do
to
that
that
in
kind
grad
of
school. I
study.
don't miss it at all. I don't miss it. But I mean, this is
Yeah.
the best thing here. Being able to come and have discussion and go over information and opportunity to learn. And I learned from the Luxers here in the LLC, and I hope and pray that they learn something from me. All the good things. Y'all don't pick up my bad habits, okay? Don't go out there and pick up my bad habits. But all the good things. So we got a couple things to go over. All right. You first of all,
Well,
you tell
yeah.
us what you've been doing and what you've been
Well,
up to with the Oscars
well,
and all of that stuff. Let us know.
well. First of all, I was recently. I just finished. It's interesting the timing of this interview because I just did an interview
Mm-hmm.
more than a day ago on Sunday. I had wrapped up my award season media tour. So I was going on shows talking about the Oscars because, as you could probably tell, possibly tell from my Chiron below, if you could call it that. It's not really
Okay.
Chiron, the title's below. I write two
Uh-huh.
film newsletters. One of them is Final Cut, the other is
Okay.
Retro Review. And so um, it's Oscar time. It's, well, it's
Yeah.
not, it's Oscar season. The Oscars are
Mm-hmm.
going to be March 15th, so Sunday, March 15th. So
Okay.
um, about what, mid January, I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what's my first um, what's my first interview of the year going to be? Because I do
Okay.
so many interviews a year, or at
Gotcha.
least that's my quota. Used to be
Okay.
3 to 5, and now
Okay.
I think it's going to have to be expanded. So I may have to
All
expand it
right.
to 10. So
I hear you. What is it like
unfortunately,
having to do these reviews for the Oscars? Give us a rundown of
well,
what you have to do to
I
prep
don't
and get
do reviews.
information to do.
Well, I didn't do reviews for the Oscars. I have a
Okay.
newsletter where I review movies from the past.
Okay. All right.
So the name of that newsletter is Retro Review. I guess on Substack because they're both on Substack. My newsletters. The
Okay.
the one would be known. They call it Finals. FINAL-S Substack. But
Okay.
I wasn't able to put retro review. But it's retro review. So I move. So I review movies from the past. Forgotten, not so forgotten, somewhat
Okay.
obscure movies. I think the
Hmm.
last two that I did, I'm supposed to be on sabbatical from my newsletters, but the last two I did, I just finished them recently, last week, in fact. I did Disney's The Black Hole from 1979.
Oh
And
wow. I have not have why haven't I heard of that? Oh my god.
oh, you haven't heard of The Black Hole?
Gi-
Should read my review.
no.
You never heard of
Oh
that one?
man. Give us a synopsis.
Well, I don't
I
want to
haven't
ask how old you
I'm telling
are.
y'all,
I don't
I
want
have
to ask
not.
how old you are, but
Oh
yeah, that
yeah,
was
no.
Disney's answer to the Star Wars phenomenon. Because Star Wars came out in 1977 and became a massive, well,
Okay.
enormous hit.
I've not
And
you know what? I'm gonna tell you a secret. I have not seen Star Wars.
oh, you
Not a Star
haven't?
Wars
Okay,
person.
but
No.
you've heard of Star Wars, right?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. I have.
Okay.
I've never been interested in
There
those
are
films.
people.
Go
No,
ahead.
there are people that haven't seen Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I saw it when I was a kid. Well, it was in
Okay.
1977. I was 7 years old, and I saw
All
Star
right.
Wars.
Okay.
So there are people that haven't seen it. I mean, now it's a really old movie at this point.
Uh-huh.
Not well, yeah, really old enough.
No.
I mean, it's the 70s. That's old enough. But so that the Black Hole was the answer, Disney's answer. That started out really as a disaster movie.
Oh.
Because you have the
Hmm.
disaster genre of primarily the early 70s. I think you made
Mm-hmm.
it to the mid 70s. And so it started out as a disaster movie in development, and then it
Okay.
became this. Later just became, I think it was going to be a sci-fi disaster movie, and later it became this very interesting sci-fi film. To me, it's one of the more distinctive sci-fi films of the 70s. I think in my review, I say it's basically Jules Verne meets Dante's
Mm-hmm.
Inferno, especially the end, which I'm not going to mention.
Okay.
But the end
Okay.
of the Black Hole is really something.
Wow.
It
All
really is
right.
something. So I did a review of that, the last review, and before that, just before that, I did Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah,
Yes.
I've heard of it. I
Um,
just like I said, I don't know why. I've just never been. I've seen a couple of the shows, I guess,
well,
but
right,
that's
right.
just
Well, they
because it
got
was nothing
Starfleet
else on.
Academy that's come out. Starfleet Academy has come out recently. I haven't seen that,
Okay. All right.
but
All right.
all the nitwits and numbskulls are complaining about Starfleet Academy, which, unfortunately, that's a whole other subject, which I won't go into. The online illiterati when it comes to movies and TV shows and the like.
Okay.
But yeah, I did those two. So that's on Retro Review. And people, if they want to check that out, they can go to thumbsdown.substack.com. That's thumbsdown.substack.com. And they can check out Retro Review.
There is the link for you guys to check that out. Albert has been very busy.
Yeah,
So
I have.
You got the Golden Globes, you said, as well?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned Golden Globes because what got me to do the award season, I used to be a film reviewer, from about 2002 to 2010. And I used to cover film festivals in my home city, but I couldn't do it full time. The strange thing is I retired from journalism, retired from freelancing, and now I'm able to write about film full time, which I wasn't able to do, unfortunately, as a freelance journalist and as a print journalist. I wanted to at some point, but I couldn't. Now I'm able to do it. So I really enjoy doing that. And of course, because I have the film newsletters, that's why I was on this awards season tour. And it really kind of came about because, again, I was thinking about what am I going to do as the first interview. And so what happened was that on New Year's, before New Year's Eve, the day, leading the day of New Year's Eve, which is odd to say, I did a pre-recorded interview for a New Year's Eve show where I was talking about the Golden Globes and the nominees and movies of 2025. And so I fast forward to January, I'm thinking, the Oscar nominations are out. Why don't I talk about the Oscars? So that's what I've done on a few shows. I just did an interview on Sunday. And so I wrapped up that tour. It's the first time I was able to talk about the Oscars. I never talked about the Oscars because when I was a film reviewer, I wasn't really interviewed. I didn't go on either YouTube shows or other shows, anything else. I didn't start being interviewed until I was 39, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
that was the first time I was interviewed.
I was gonna say, now that you've gotten to this point and you're getting these interviews up and going and all of that, what's the overall experience when you're out traveling, when you're out here? Have you ever been on the red carpet, or have you been to the award shows, pre-shows?
Well, the closest that I came. Well, it's interesting. The closest that I came to watching. The closest that I came to watching an actual award show was the Emmys. They were telecasting it in different cities one year. I think it was 2019. And I decided to go to the theater downtown in the city I'm in and watch it that year. And so that's the closest that I've come to watching an award, like attending an award show, a major award show. And because I had to go and dress up a little and go in this theater and sit down, and it's of course projected on their screen, so it's not like watching it at home. And that was like 3 hours, and I was like, I tip my hat. I don't wear a hat. I'm not wearing a hat right now, but I tip my hat to celebrities who have to sit through the people that are attending the Emmys. The Oscars. All these other award shows. I gotta hand it to you. It's kind of exhausting to be there. I can't imagine being nominated for an award and you're out there and it's like, because after the whole, and again, this is not the actual Emmys. I'm just watching a telecast in the theater of the Emmys. But that's the closest to it. It almost simulates the experience. And I'm going, if this is what they have to go through, I was exhausted. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm like, how do they go with the Oscars? How do they go to award? They have all these parties afterwards. The famous Vanity Fair party. You got the governor's ball right after the Oscars. You got all these parties. I'm like, these people must have stamina. You got to. I'm swear. You got to have exercises. You got to do something to get ready for these award shows.
I heard it's a whole event, and they pretty much clear their calendar for like the week, because you got the pre-show parties and events, and then you have these post, award events and shows. So they
Well,
cleared, on average, they clear their schedule for about a good week.
right.
Especially the major ones like the Oscar, the
Mhm.
Emmy,
Well,
the
well,
Golden Globe. They clear their
when I
schedule.
was growing up, when I was growing up, when it comes to, I only knew the Golden Globes and the Oscars. Those were the only awards that were kind of out there. And it
Hmm.
seems, now that I've come back to writing about film, I feel like Rip
Hmm.
Van Winkle, um, Washington Irving's story. You wake
Okay.
up and it's a whole different world. There are all these award shows in between, sandwich in between the Golden Globes and the Oscars.
Right. Yep.
And so you've got what? The
Emmy, Tony,
no,
Academy.
that's later. I'm talking
Okay.
between the Golden Globes and the Oscars. What you have
Okay.
are a number of awards. That didn't used to be the case. You got the Critics' Choice Awards, and you've
Oh yeah.
got, well, in England you had
Screen,
the
is it the
BAFTAs.
Screen Guild or something like that? Yeah,
Yes,
BAFTA.
yeah. Well, now they I think it was just held this past Sunday, and they
Hmm.
just rebranded it. The
Oh my
Actor
goodness.
Awards.
That okay.
Really?
You
The
gotta admit
Actor
it makes
Awards.
it shorter.
I know, but it's the
You gotta
dumbest
admit that's much better.
rebrand. It is the dumbest name for an award show I have seen. The
Oh dear
Oscars
Lord.
don't call themselves the Movie Awards. The
Okay.
Directors Guild doesn't give away the Director Awards, nor does the Writers Guild give away the Writer Awards. But SAG-AFTRA decides they're going to have the Actor Awards. Like, I know you want something
Uh-uh.
simple and perky and pithy and fun, but it's stupid.
I
That would
get
be
you.
my memo to SAG.
Basically, I would
Like,
take the
nothing
money
against
and just keep
SAG-AFTRA,
going.
but it's stupid. It's dumb.
Well,
I think it's just silly. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I get you. Speaking of stupid and dumb, ugh,
Mhm.
let's just go on to what's going on in the world of. I guess the last time we talked, we spoke about
Yes. Well,
the
that's the
Umar.
reason that I'm here actually is kind of a part
What
two.
do
This
you
is a
think
part
about this
two.
stuff?
This is a
Hmm.
conclusion. So this is conclusion. When I was
Okay.
here previously, I was talking about the piece that I wrote for my blog at the time in July
Hmm.
2020. And if people want to check that out, they can go and check out that episode. And so what I
Okay.
was doing, I was talking about what my observations, assessments, and conclusions were within the body of the article. What I concluded and observed, and I of course assessed within the article, and of course discussing that fully and discussing it. What I had in
Hmm.
regards to Umar Johnson. But of
Hmm.
course, that was 2020. A lot's changed, right?
Right.
So a
Absolutely.
lot has changed since 2020. And I thought it only fair because I had spoken about my piece and because last year, because of
Hmm.
everything that happened, Umar
Hmm.
became this enormous subject for a lot of content creators and people on YouTube who decided
Hmm.
they were apparently going to eat off of him or try to eat off of him.
Child.
Um,
Ain't
you
that
know,
he eating it all up for
I
us
think
all
they
there,
got what
child.
they could last year. I think it's probably died down some, but it's very clear that see when I was writing about Umar in 2020, I said that he was
Hmm.
a con artist engaged in a long con. I'm
Yeah.
not aware of anybody who stated that at the time. There were a couple people or a few people on YouTube that were critics of Umar. Lennon Honor, of
Hmm.
course, is one, and there was a guy called Keyboard Musician. But nobody was really going around stating either in print or text or for the most part online that Umar Johnson was a con artist or as a lot of these guys are saying now scammer. I use the term con artist.
Yeah, you said
So
scammer kind of. Yeah.
yeah, all
Same
of us,
thing.
all and so when everything exploded, I did a couple of interviews. Yours was
Hmm.
one, obviously, on this channel,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
so it's only fair to discuss, what's, you know, since I gave gave the assessment, gave the observations, gave the conclusions, since that's occurred, what are the assessments? What are the observations? What are the conclusions? And I would say, from what I've been able to piece together from last year, they basically are in 3 packages or 3 components. So let me just go through this.
All right.
The first thing I would say in regards to Umar is, I think what's happened over the years is that Umar has moved, much like a caterpillar moves in the pupae stage and becomes a butterfly. He's moved into becoming a celebrity and a public figure, like a relatively high profile person. And so what I think has happened in regards to Umar is that Umar has, where in the past, I believe, he kind of represented himself as a kind of educated professional, as a kind of person that was interested as a mental health, someone working in the mental health field. I believe that his professional status and that brand, if you could call it that, or at least what his image in that regard, was damaged. Some might say that it's irrevocably shattered and eliminated, but I would say it was damaged. And so what he's been able to do is kind of pivot into the status that he's found himself in, which is as a celebrity and as a public figure. And that's one of the reasons that when he's interviewed, and he's been doing this for a little while now, but that's one of the reasons why he talks about all these hot button issues.
Right.
Think about this. He's always talking about what? Movie stars, TV stars, music stars, other politicians, what's going on, and celebrity. And he talks about that because he is a celebrity to a certain extent now. And so to
certain people.
Right. Well,
at this point,
he's a known quantity. He's a known quantity. Whereas before, when I wrote about him in my blog piece, he was not that much of a known quantity. He was a little bit of a name on YouTube. He was a little bit of a name online. But what's happened, I think, in my view, is that what Umar has done is shifted, and he's pivoted to being that. And I think the reason he's done that is because as a professional, as somebody in the mental health field, as just an educated professional, he's not going to get any leniency. Even, if he's a known quantity in regards to that, I hate to use the term brand, but in terms of that image, right?
Yeah,
but if he's a celebrity, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't expect him to. Leniency is, I think, something that you expect to give or get, when you're at least, trying to do things with a lot more integrity and you're doing things more honestly. When you're not walking around here saying you're gonna open up a school and you never do that, and you collect money, without even having a job and being able to add financially to your own so-called pipe dream. And
well,
yet, when you're asked to be held accountable, it's like, oh, well, I don't have to tell you all because you're not a donor, but it's nothing but donors asking. And then you got people like myself that are just kind of putting on the pressure because they deserve the right to know what he's done with their money when he's not opening a school. So he's not doing what he said he would do. It's the art of deception here. So I wouldn't give him leniency in the least.
That gets into some of what you're saying here gets into the second component of how Umar deals with this. But just to finish up here, what he's able to do. So because of what's occurred last year, I guess the lady who, I guess it's Lanier, I hope I'm getting her name right, who is his former, I'll just say his former friend. I don't think she wants to be on this show.
Are you talking about the one that came out talking about the lawsuit and the check and all of that?
No. That's Marianne Lorient. I believe that's her name. I'm talking about Lanier. I guess that's what she goes by. His ex-friend. I just used the term friend. I don't think she wants to be known as a girlfriend.
Oh yeah,
When
no,
she
no.
when she came out and talked about his personal life and his private life, right? And then you have the situation with the
Hmm.
Marianne Lorient, I believe her name is, and
Hmm.
then the other things that have come out with the FDMG property possibly going to be auctioned off, and the taxes weren't paid.
Right. And some other utilities and stuff. Gotcha.
Right. So what I'm saying is, getting back to what I was saying, when you talk about integrity and when you talk about integrity and honesty and all that, that was in the past in regards to Umar. That was a part of his image as a professional, as an educated person,
Hmm.
as an educated professional and a mental health professional, right? That
Hmm.
has been damaged. So, for
Yeah.
how does he continue to move on? Because he's still in the public eye, right?
Right. Exactly.
Doesn't he do video? Isn't he do? He still does interviews. He still
Yeah.
does. He's
That's how
still
he's moved on. Yeah.
being
Trying to purport himself
right.
as a celebrity. I got you. I got you. Hmm.
So, well, that's part of his enabling mechanism, his coping mechanism, right? So
Hmm.
he's already become a celebrity. So he pivots to that because he understands. And when I say leniency, that the general public can go and say, "Oh,
Hmm.
he's just a public figure." Because
Yeah.
now, what is Umar known for? Is he known for being a real psychologist or a clinical psychologist or a mental health professional? No. He's
No.
basically
He's
known for some cockamamie uh, plan to
media
open up a
personality. Yeah.
school,
No. Media
and as a
personality.
personality, as precisely as a media personality. That's the third.
Yeah.
That gets into the third component, but
Hmm.
that's what he's known for, and so that's
Hmm.
what he's at this point pivoting to and shifting to, right? Because he understands. Oh, I believe he understands. Um,
Hmm.
because I don't believe Umar is as stupid as people think he is, at all. I don't think he's a genius, but I don't think he's as stupid as people think he is.
Yeah.
In
To me,
what I
he's just
saw
kind
when
of
I wrote
playing
the
the
article,
game.
somebody studied. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying to me, he's just kind of at this point, he's playing the role. He's playing the game because he knows if I can't
Mhm.
get
Right.
attention from this avenue, I see what you're saying. I'll get it from this other avenue. While where
Yeah,
I'm just
and
a
it
media personality at this point. That's
right,
it.
right. That
Yep.
gets into the third component, but you're seeing that because he's become a celebrity, because he's this name, now
Mhm.
he's leaning into it. Now he's beginning to move in that direction. And so I
Right.
think that's what's interesting about Umar. And so I have to
Yep.
be honest, when I wrote my piece in 2020, I thought of Umar as really a marginal figure, because he wasn't a name, he wasn't a celebrity, he wasn't a public figure. He was, to me, small potatoes. He was, a nickel and dimer. That's what he was to me. And I have to say that in a sense, I kind of underestimated his
Mhm.
longevity. And not just underestimated, I didn't take
I
it into
get you.
account. So
I'm about to say I didn't calculate that he would be this loud and wrong for this many years. Yeah,
it's like,
that's a good way to
absolutely,
put it.
that's the best description, perfect
Yeah.
description, that he would be this loud and long for these many years. So
Yep.
quote that. People out there,
Yep.
quote that. Because there'll probably be reaction videos to what you say on that.
Yep.
Quote that. I don't say
Turn it
clip
into a
things now,
meme.
but quote that. Quote
Yeah.
that. Because that's precisely what's occurred with Umar Johnson,
Yeah.
aka his original name, Jermaine Shoemaker, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, I always want to add that. It's kind of odd when you think about it. Here's a psychologist, someone was supposedly with a PhD, and he's changed his name. Why would he do that? But
Yeah.
you know,
What
I
do
know
you
he
think
was
about
involved
this?
in the what was that? The conscious community. So maybe that had something to do with it.
I
I don't
talked
know.
about and I spoke about that on Sunday because I guess it's this mentality shift having, seen Marianne Lorient come out into the spotlight speaking about, pursuing legal matters against him and this supposed class action that never happened and how, she made references to what the conscious community do and do not believe in. And,
Mm-hmm.
all the while I'm sitting here saying, how do you handle, a misjustice, yeah, an injustice rather? How do you handle injustices? How do you hold someone accountable? If you're not trying to pursue, anything in the court of law, and you have these people that are, and you see he goes on his media tour, and a couple of these media personalities, they let him just go, they just let him go ham. They don't ask him tough
Right.
questions like that. They
That
don't,
gets into my that
they
does
just
get
let
into my
him
third
fly
component, but
off.
that's a good point to bring up. That gets into my
Yeah.
third component, but that's an
Hmm.
excellent point to bring up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of that, I guess I could go into that much later, but just to give a little preview of that, that's part
Hmm.
of the, I guess it's the collaborative nature of Umar with media.
Hmm.
It's collaborative to a certain extent. That's part of the reason that he has been. That's part of the reason that he became a personality to begin with, is being involved in media of some way. It's very clear that he is media aware, and I can't go into that too much right now, but
I get you.
I will. But he's somewhat savvy when it comes to media, somewhat. So we have the fact that Umar is somebody who has, and that's why and that basically what he's become is a commentator.
Yeah,
So
that's all he is. That's what he should
think
just
about it.
do. It's like I've said that so
That
many
and that
times.
gets into
Why
my
don't he
third
just go be a
component.
gossip blogger?
You know, that gets into my
Right.
third component. That gets in my
Right.
third component. I'll address that.
Yeah.
But when you look at Umar, he's basically a commentator. Think
Yeah.
about this. Why is a psychologist? Why is a mental health professional talking about all these hot button ripped from the headlines issues, all of these aspects? Why is he talking about it? Do you see that with most clinical psychologists or other psychologists or even psychiatrists on YouTube?
No.
No.
I
What do
don't.
they talk about?
Not at all.
What do they talk
They
about
talk
on YouTube?
about their field. They talk about what they're an expert in. Dealing with
Precisely.
mental health. That's it.
But Umar does not deal with his field. And I would argue, I mean, he may do it in his public appearances, like if he does a public appearance, if he does a lecture or a talk, but I would argue he doesn't do that because his credibility is diminished and
Yeah.
his credibility has been eroded and in some
Yeah.
respects destroyed. So it's harder. People can't take him seriously as a psychologist, as a mental health professional, but they can take him seriously as a commentator because any imbecile, nitwit, moron, knucklehead can be a commentator on YouTube.
Yep.
That's one of
Yeah,
the
we're seeing
reasons
that.
I don't. That's one of the reasons as somebody who, like I have two podcasts, right? One is a film podcast called Final Cut, as you could tell from the Chiron. I don't know what they call it, titles here. One is Final Cut, and of course that can be found on Substack and also on Spotify if you want to listen. But I also have a podcast called The Write Off, which is about writing.
Mhm.
And the reason I have a
Okay.
podcast about writing is because I am a writer. I was a
Right.
freelance writer and I was a print journalist for 22 years, and I
Hmm.
remain a writer now. It's over 31 years. It'll be 32 this August. So one of the things I've told people about YouTube, and I said this recently to someone on YouTube,
Hmm.
is I treat YouTube. This is just my personal view, right? I'm not getting into Umar so much. But my
Yeah.
view is always that YouTube should be used I use YouTube as a promotional and marketing vehicle. I don't really do content. I mean, I do have a show on my
Hmm.
own official channel, which is
Yeah. I know.
about, oh yeah, you know the show, right?
Mhm.
But that's promotion. Like I'm promoting what show I go on by having a
Mhm.
show that deals with being on shows. Because I thought,
Right.
it's an interesting phenomena being interviewed on shows. And I thought that would make for an interesting show. Well, interesting to me. I don't know if it's interesting to people. I don't have, 10,000 people watching. So, but that's how I use YouTube, right? To me, I don't waste my time making a lot of content. Not that making content is bad or something, but there has to be a reason for you to do it. And so the only
Yeah.
thing I've said is, if you really want to do my recommendation to people is, if you want to do content on YouTube, if you're a professional,
Hmm.
if you are business, if you've got a major hobby, if you got an interesting kind of job or something, or you got something that would interest an audience in some way, it's
Yeah.
informative,
Right.
then that's for you. If all you want to do is be destructive and or all you want to do is gossip and you don't have anything to do, there's no benefit or anything, I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm kind of the opposite when it comes to YouTube. I'm like, unless you got a reason to be on YouTube, I wouldn't do content on it. You can have a
Well,
channel
I
if you
mean, that's
want, but
what I think. That's the beauty of, you know, social media is kind of, become more of wider scope. You do have those gossip bloggers, and you do have people that enjoy it. You have people that
Mhm.
actually will sit down. It's like the soaps back in the day, where the housewives and moms and grandmoms would sit down and watch the soap
Right.
operas and stuff. It's the new age soap opera now, and it's, a way to kind of still have that dialogue. Granted, it might not be all about, the educational field or mental health, but it is still a way to. And to me, I started, YouTube for very different reason for what I do now, but I see it as independent journalism, because I do research. I do, put forth information that I feel the public should know, provide facts and evidence, documentation. And yes, I am going to give my thought and opinion on something, especially when I speak on it. And of course, you see somebody out here scamming somebody, or you see someone, you know, creating this personality where it's a hive mentality. People are not thinking for themselves and, using critical thinking skills. You start to see that more. And you speak out about it. You say something about it. You want to kind of, like, that's primarily the main subject of what I speak about here in the LLC, is certain key people that kind of perpetuate this cult mentality, the cult personality,
So is that
so to
kind of
speak.
what you
And
speak out
it
against, is the cult mentality or cults in general?
yeah, I mean, and that's kind of
Oh,
like the
okay.
people that I talk about
That
is,
makes sense.
they look, you can,
So
when
Umar
you listen
is, for
to them speak,
you,
they
a
look like a cult
manifestation
leader.
of cult mentality. So for
Yeah.
you,
It-
Umar
oh
Johnson
yeah,
is a
Omar is
manifestation
definitely
of
is a
cult
cult leader.
mentality. He's a de
I
facto cult leader.
Yeah, he's a de facto cult leader like Candace Owens, and
Okay,
then we
okay.
talk about Scientology. We talk about
Oh yeah. Oh
polite.
my God.
We're catching up on the series with Nature Boy. These are cult leaders. These are people.
I see.
Nature Boy literally said he was a cult leader in an article. He actually said that. So we go into that sector because you can easily get caught up in this is on social media. You can get caught up in that hive mentality. And when people start limiting, you know, the pursuit of knowledge and gaining information, and they just start believing what someone says and they don't challenge it, it's so easy to get caught
Mhm.
up in that. And
It's
that is what
scary.
I have seen with exactly. And I've seen this
Yeah,
with
very scary.
Umar and
I
his
saw some of
followers,
the Scientology when you had the lady from
Oh
Scientology
yeah.
on,
Yeah,
and
we
I
talk
was like,
about Scientology every week.
those guys. I won't say much about them. I'm not interested in religion myself. I'm not a religious
No, I
person,
get you. I
but
get
but when I lived in LA, uh, that's what kind of alerted me to Scientology, because I was in Hollywood and I'm like,
you. Hmm.
okay, this building is owned by Scientology. I guess owned by Scientology. You got this one by Scientology. I'm like, what's with all the
Yep.
Scientology stuff? And then
Yep.
later on, I read Lawrence Wright's book, Going Clear, and that's when
Okay.
I found out. Um, because from my perspective as a writer, I don't know if I should talk about that.
Well, I mean,
um,
it's a fickle
it's not my
thing,
interest, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was then that I started finding out, and so I went,
Hmm.
"Oh yeah, I see what this is about." because I have absolutely no interest in religion, but that did get me because I had seen them in LA. I've lived in LA twice. I was like,
Okay.
man, what are these buildings and all these locations. I'm like, so. Well, getting back to Umar, which is the main thing.
Yeah, I got
So
you.
the first component of that is basically what Umar has done, from what I saw last year, especially, is he's leaned into his celebrity and public status, and he's fundamentally a commentator. So though he was talking about all these hot button, ripped from the headlines issues and individuals and people, now he's basically situated himself in the commentariat, so to speak. And that's what he is. Whether he wants to admit it or not, whether he'll cop to it or not, whether he'll confess to it or not, that's essentially what he's done. Because we were saying earlier, like you had that great quote about, so wrong for so long and something like that. And part of the reason I think for his longevity is his ability to pivot. And he doesn't seem like an adaptable person, but he really is adaptable. He really is adaptable. There's a part of him that is adaptable. I think that's what he's done here. So the second component,
adaptability. Hold on one second. I think the adaptability might be just more of a massage of being able to just kind of say what it's either he's gonna say what's popular or he goes against the grain deliberately because he knows it gets him attention.
Right. That gets into the third component of what I'm talking of what I'll be talking about. But you nailed it on the head there. That's a part of what he does, right? So the second component when it comes to Umar is what he's done over the years is he's constructed a framework in which he is able to deal with any issue or problem that besets him publicly, right? I know there's a war going on, and I hate to use military metaphors or like direct military aspects, but what Umar has in a sense done is he set up his own rockets, his own missiles, interceptor missiles. And so if any missiles come his way, meaning missiles that are attacks or criticism, or as you mentioned, people trying to make him responsible or accountable. What he's able to do is send up his interceptors. He's able to go and do that. So I know, like I said, that may not be a good metaphor, and I understand that maybe some people are sensitive to that. So I'm not looking to offend.
Let's call it a distraction.
But it's a perfect metaphor.
Yeah.
So that's how he's looking to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how he does it. So his framework, and here's the important part about Umar. Here's what I would argue. So when he goes and calls before I get to that, so when he goes and calls his critics and opposers, haters and opposition and whatever else he does, that's a way for him to shoot them down, right? It's a way for him. He has ready-made explanations, and I wouldn't even say arguments, but responses, right? That's part of the framework. But also part of the framework of Umar is the fact that what's important is that he is a benefactor. He is not an advocate. He is not an activist. He's a benefactor. That's where the FBMG, that property, it's not a school, but a property comes in, right? Because you have to ask yourself, why did he decide to start a school? And this is part of his, I guess you could call image. It's part of his image, but it's also part of the facade of him of Umar as a benefactor. Because what does a benefactor do? A benefactor provides. It doesn't necessarily have to put in the physical labor and the sweat equity and the muscle, but they provide in some way. So if he decides to go and have this school, because when you think about it, why is a clinical psychologist or why is a psychologist, mental health professional, creating a private school and trying to have a private school? People should, right away, that should be alarm bells in people's minds and red flags. But why isn't it an educator? Why is it someone like Umar Johnson? But if he goes and goes and says, I'm going to create a school for the youth of this community, this is a way to appear, and this is how he sees himself as a benefactor.
Right.
And so he's doing something that is deemed beneficial for the community. And that allows, again, sympathy, right? Because that's important. You know, his image before was as a professional, right? As this mental health professional, as this educated professional, and so forth. So this ties in with that, right? It's a dual, you know, it runs on the side. So, and it helps buttress it.
I
So
give you
he
my if I
views it.
Gavin, can I give you my thought on that right quick?
Go ahead.
I think what he does is that he intentionally goes out to try to do whatever it takes to garner sympathy. It's like even if it's not successful in his mind, if he can pull on the heartstrings and pull an emotional response, then he believes that it's easier to get a financial response as well. Because the end goal for him, let's be honest, is that he just wants the financial benefit, like you said, the benefactor,
Mhm.
but he's looking at it financially. But if he
Right.
can, whatever he's pitching, if it generates this emotional response, if
Right.
it's out to where he has people feeling good or feeling some type of way about whatever he's trying to do,
Mhm.
what's worked for him is, let me go out and tell all these single moms that I want to educate their black boys, and
Right.
and be like the father of the neighborhood, and the money will come. And even now he's
Right.
talking about starting an AME church. Like he knows, okay, well, most people don't affiliate a pastor as a bad thing, but it depends on your stance with religion. But he knows based on
But
his base, his orders,
my understanding of Umar is that Umar is not a fan of
he's
Christianity.
he's not a fan of it, but he wants to start an AME church. How ironic is that? But it's like
But he's not
he
in that.
knows his
He's
fan
certainly
base
not in
cares
that
about
religion, from
religion.
what I understand. I mean,
Thank you.
what I
Yeah.
recall years ago when I did do my article, it was very clear to me that Umar is not. If he's interested in anything regarding religion or spirituality, it's so-called African spirituality, which of course
Yeah.
is not religion, but it's spiritual practices, and the spirituality of numerous African nations. Um, it's the traditional African
Hmm.
spirituality. Now,
Yeah.
whether he's serious about that or not, I won't get into, because that's not something I'm terribly interested in. But to
Hmm.
my knowledge, that's what, not so much what he's evinced, but that is what he seems to promulgate. And I've heard him speak in
Hmm.
the past when I was doing my article. It's very clear from what he said before. He's not a fan of the churches. He's spoken in them. I know he's given talks, he's given lectures, and what have you, but he's not a fan of the churches. But he doesn't want that
Hmm.
really to come out. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, well,
Umar. This is
I think
just
he'll
my.
just say
This is
whatever
just
at this point.
my. This is just my speculation. It's not true. You know,
Okay.
it's not absolute bedrock truth. It's just what my take on him has been. I get the
All
feeling
right.
the guy's an agnostic.
You say you get the feeling what now?
He's an agnostic. I don't think he's
Yeah,
religious.
I
I
think
don't think he's a religious
yeah,
person. I wouldn't go
yeah.
so far as to say he's an atheist, but I know that he's not a fan. He's really not a fan of religion. He has issues with religion, and that's
Yeah.
very clear because he's spoken out against various aspects of it.
Mm.
But see, the problem is that he limits himself. For him, it's all about Black American community and also African communities. And the
Hmm.
problem is religion is very prevalent in those communities.
Exactly.
So if you come out, if you want something from those communities, and
Yep.
especially if you're Umar, who fundamentally is a con artist, as I mentioned before, engaged in long con,
Exactly.
you can't come out as a kind of secular critic, anti religious critic. Now, again, he may not be purely anti-religious, but he does. There's a lot about religion he doesn't seem to like. I can tell.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
secular person. I can tell when somebody is not a fan of religion because
Yeah.
he's very critical. He said religion has had too much. It's too divisive. It's too is aspects. But the problem is, it's a big part of that community, from what I understand.
Right.
So I'm like, well, if you're going to prosper within that community, especially, well, let's just say, I use the term prosper as a con artist or whatever else, then you can't
Yeah.
be seen to be too critical of the role of religion in those communities if you're going to operate in those communities. Now,
Right.
some people operate. Now obviously there are black groups and so forth. They're not fans of religion, but you know where they stand, right?
Right.
They're
Yeah.
not hiding. They're not pretending. But in Umar's case, I don't think he likes religion at all.
Yeah. No, I don't think
Um,
he
I
doesn't
get that
care either
feeling
way.
about him. And
Whatever
again,
makes him.
I'm not trying to characterize him. I'm not trying to say that he's absolutely anti-religious, but I get the feeling he's very skeptical. And the closest that he has to spirituality is African spirituality, traditional African spirituality. And even then, I'm kind of cynical about that.
Well,
Um,
let me because I know what, based just from having researched and reported on him. I-
mhm,
Umar is one where he sees himself as a sort of deity figure because of
mhm,
this cult of personality complex he has, and because he's a narcissist. So I think his way of even trying to entertain religion is because,
mhm.
once again, he's trying to invoke this emotional response, because of course
Right.
everyone is not going to take kindly to you looking to yourself as if you're god. Everyone's not going to take kind to him saying things that make himself seem as if he's untouchable or impervious to being held accountable, which is what he does often. So he has to, when he sees that he's losing his fan base, and we're talking about his base of supporters, because at this point, I, I don't think he can pull in a whole branch of new supporters like that,
Mhm.
based on the things that he's saying, and then he's, basically a con artist. I think the people that he has in his corner have been there for a while. So, he's going to say whatever he needs to say to make whatever money, or to get whatever money he can get out of people telling him to hit the Cash App and the PayPal.
Mhm.
And, when he sees that trying to see himself in this godlike complex isn't working, especially amongst his older, supporters who are like, you, no one stands in God's position but God. Then he tries to, go and fake the funk until you fake it till you make it. He tries to go out and
Okay.
appease them by saying something along the lines that might
I
be, "Oh, I'm a spiritual religious person," but he
Right.
doesn't mean any of that. He's just doing that,
Right.
whatever it takes to
It's
get money.
interesting that you think he considers himself a deity-like figure, a god-like figure, something like. I would never really conceive of that. I know that he's tremendously egotistical, but that's interesting. It's interesting. I think your assessment is a little interesting. That's not anything I would have come up with, but
Oh yeah, he
because
has
I just
literally, said that he was a god, and I'm like, who on
no.
what planet? He
I
has.
confess,
We
I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wrote about him back in 2020, and I've observed a
Mhm,
little since last year because I was being interviewed on a couple of platforms, a couple channels,
mhm.
of course. So I'm not a Umar, like the Umar watchers are experts on Umar. Like Lennon Honor clearly is an expert on Umar.
Yeah.
This guy is clearly he knows him enough backwards and forwards from what I've seen. What little I've seen more recently. I said more recently. I guess more recently, or even in the past. he clearly he's done. It's not simply he's done his homework on Umar, but it's almost like he could like predict what Umar is going to do. Maybe not quite precisely, but he has that kind of, it's like he knows them extremely well. So
He's done
people like that, those are the ones that are like the Umar watchers. There are people that are still Umar watchers. Yeah, they kind of know about him, but I can't, like I said, I wrote about him 5 years ago or over 5 years ago. And I've come back and because I wanted to answer why, because it seemed to me that I had completely not so much underestimated him, but didn't estimate him, period. So I said, there has to be a reason to this. And I kind of observed a little and I went, okay, here are the reasons. So we see the first component is that he's moved from this, if you want to say, I don't know, serious, but from being a educated professional figure to being a public figure and a celebrity. And he's leaning into that. And he's basically a commentator. And then you have the second component, which is that he already has this pre-structured framework that allows him to deal with any arguments or claims or accusations that are coming his way. Which I think is important to consider. And that may be the reason why he's like the Energizer bunny rabbit, keeps going and going and going and going. So we get to the third part, why he's like the Energizer rabbit. And he's still around. And that is the media consolidation, the media aspect of it. And so what Umar tends to... Umar has always been involved in media, primarily online media to some extent, for, I don't know, probably a decade or more.
Yeah.
And it's very, 20 years. Yeah, that Umar is somebody who, and I would say basically from what I've been able to detect, he's someone who basically is his own PR person and own publicist. I don't think he's hiring a PR agency. I don't think he has a publicist under retainer. He's basically his own publicist. And what his strategy seems to be is, and it's interesting now, like you were saying earlier, why doesn't Umar become like a gossip columnist or gossip
blogger?
Gossip blogger, what have you. And more importantly, here's the interesting part, or at least I find it interesting, slightly interesting. Umar is now a celebrity. He's well known. He's not relatively obscure like he was when even I wrote about him in 2020. He's known. So why doesn't he have his own YouTube show? I don't think he has his own YouTube show. Why doesn't he just go and set up his own YouTube show or his own online show on a website and talk about what he wants to talk about? The reason I believe he hasn't done that, I mean, I think he was on Instagram, right? Wasn't he talking to people on Instagram? That's what I recall.
Yeah, he still does. He still does Instagram.
Yeah. But notice he doesn't have a direct show or channel, right? On YouTube. Or doesn't have that kind of, like your channel right now, right?
Right, yeah.
Why is that?
He's hiding.
Yeah, why is that? Because...
he's hiding.
Well...
Hiding from accountability.
Hiding in plain sight, right? Because he's still... But here's the important part. Umar still does interviews, right? He goes on shows and he's interviewed. Now, this is the part that I was thinking about because I've been interviewing on shows for a number of years. And what I realize is when you get interviewed on a show, it doesn't matter how big the show is or how small the show is. To be on a show, there has to be some relative importance or significance about you as a person. Yeah, there has to be some status. There has to be a reason. Most people don't get interviewed on talk shows. Most people don't get even interviewed on online shows, right? They don't get interviewed on podcasts. They don't do that.
Right.
But Umar does it because when he's interviewed on shows, it confers a basic status of importance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having somebody talk to him, and it's normally somebody who is almost like a minion, someone like almost like a
Mm-hmm.
follower. They're ass
Right.
kissers.
Yep.
Um, they're people that
That's a
will
good way to
not
put
hold
it.
them to any. They won't hold his feet under the fire. They won't ask him the tough
Mm.
question.
Oh yeah.
Well, there were exceptions, right? There was, I believe his name is Lord Jamar. He
Yeah,
did an
exactly. That
interview.
one
This was some time
exception.
ago.
I don't know
That
any
guy
other.
held his feet to the fire.
Oh yeah.
He
Shout out to
did. He
Lord.
asked the questions.
Shout
You
out to
don't
Lord.
see people doing what Lord Jamar did, right?
Right.
And you
Right.
could see how Umar was dealing with it.
Yep.
He's getting upset. He was
Bad.
angry. He was flustered. He was pissed off. Couldn't
Threw
handle
a
it.
tantrum.
So,
Yeah.
so, um, so if he goes on these shows,
Mm-hmm.
that sense of importance and his status as an individual will rise.
Mm-hmm.
But if he just does his own thing, no one cares. I mean, his followers will care, his fans will care, what few of them are, what remain of them are, or remain of them out there. But that's not going to help him in the broader sense in regards to the general public, right?
Yeah.
When you are
That's true.
interviewed, it implies a certain, depending on the channel that you're on, or the show that you're on, or the outlet that you're being interviewed. There's a bit of there's a sense people do that to gain a certain amount of gravitas,
Yeah.
right? A certain importance. So Umar wants to obviously get, although it's been damaged to a certain extent, he wants to get back his sense of being um, a not so much a professional person, but a person who has esteem, a person who has a certain level of respect, and a person who has a certain amount of gravitas,
He
right?
can try, but I don't think
He
he'll ever
wants to
get it.
be more of the
He can try.
statesman type, even though he's not a politician. He can
Yeah.
try,
He can
but
try.
I believe that's why he's still doing these interviews. When you think
Yeah.
about it, because when you think about it, he could easily just go and have his own show, and he could interview people, and he could do that, and but that's not going to deal with it. Again, when you look at what happened last
Mm-hmm.
year, when you look at the things that were said about him, the things are personal. Is
Mm-hmm.
again, I'll just call her a friend who talked about
Mm-hmm.
his personal and private life. This Marianne Lorient, who talked about dealing with him in regards to the movie Awaken and what happened
Mm-hmm.
supposedly afterwards.
Yeah.
When you look at all these other all these other YouTubers and online personalities that are making basically I'll call them hit
Now
live
hit
streams on
me.
him.
What do you
But
mean hit
I mean,
live
he
stream?
deserves it. I mean, I'll be honest, he deserves it. But
Yeah.
some of them were doing hit live streams, and some of them were coming
Mm-hmm.
after him, and they were calling him what he was, which is a a con
A
artist and a
scammer.
scammer.
Yep. Yep.
But the problem is that the people that are, the problem is, where were they
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago? Where were they previously? Right? There's a level of convenience, not with everyone, but with a number of them that happened last
Mm-hmm.
year. It's very clear that these people, were they really interested in Umar as a scammer, or were they interested in their clicks and views? Were they interested in Umar as a con artist, or were they interested in getting super chats and
Mm-hmm.
donations? Were they interested in dealing with Umar as a person who is deceptive and engaging in possible criminal conduct? And if I have to say possible, or are they just interested in gaining more subscribers to their channel? So that's what you have to look at. But what they were doing was the right thing, even though their motives, you could question their motives, but what they're doing was the right thing. They're right to say that Umar is a scammer. They are right to say, and a con artist. They're right to question him in regards to the things that he has mentioned about his school and other people.
Mhm.
They are right to hold his feet to the fire.
Yeah.
So they're right in what they're doing. Their motivations, that's another story. But they're right in doing what they're doing. But what's unfortunate in regards to Umar that it took so long. And even then, it hasn't really changed. It's changed a lot, but it hasn't changed a lot. Because again, because of these three components, right?
Mhm.
Because he's been able to pivot in regards to being a celebrity and a public figure, because he already has a well established framework and he always seeks to keep his status as a benefactor in place, and thus can deal with arguments and has
Mhm.
explanations for all kinds of claims and accusations and criticisms. And because he has a kind of media strategy where he's still doing interviews instead of going out and doing, that I'm aware of, media, he's not setting up his own media. He's not doing his own shows. He's not doing all that. He's going on other shows and being interviewed by other personalities. So that confers a measure of credibility. That's important for him. And also importance and to maintain a certain stature. He doesn't need to be interviewed on shows,
No, I mean,
but
and
he does it
his,
because that's
if
important.
I and if I can, just to the, all the content creators that are picking up the stories now, I think there were always some content creators that were reporting on him, but because, you know, let's go back to 2019. Umar had this cult like following that would chase people away if they said something negative about him. They would
Interesting.
dox people. They would, oh yeah. I mean, you had
Well,
someone, try to
if I could speak
sue
to that,
because of
if I
that.
could speak to
So
that, I have to be brutally honest. I never saw a supporter of Umar until last year. I never saw a supporter. When I wrote my piece in 2020, I got no response. None. And that would, I would add that, let me put that addendum also to one of the component parts that I went over. Part of the
mhm,
way, the second component part is the way he deals with things is also by dismissing them, reducing them, and trying to eliminate them in the conversation. So what he does is he only addresses it to mitigate it. He only addresses it to render it null and void. That's how he operates. So that can be placed in the second component part that I mentioned. But that's how he deals with things, right? Well, that exists, but hey, they're haters, they're critics, and they don't produce anything. Again, supporting the benefactor status that Umar has. And so, I when I wrote my piece, I never heard from a supporter of Umar. Never.
yeah, but see, here's the
Even
thing:
to this day, I have not.
your
I have
outlet,
not had any of them, as you mentioned. If they're going
right?
around trying to dox people, if they're going around trying to criticize people and try to go after them and attack them, they didn't do it to me.
Yeah,
And I
but
wrote
you
that
you
piece over 5 years ago.
yeah, and your outlet was different. You had an I mean, I can honestly say most of them aren't gonna read. And it's not even to be funny.
Oh,
They're not gonna
ouch.
read. So
Oh my
you gotta
God.
remember the outlet is
Oh,
they're going after people who are doing videos and doing content on social media because that's what they're looking for. I've had a few of them show up in my chat. As a matter of fact, I've had one of
oh
them do a
yeah.
whole video against me and call me an idiot. So it's like they if I would have written something in an article or had a Substack,
Hmm.
they wouldn't because they don't go out that far to read. But they will hound you
Well,
down on YouTube because that's where they're mainly, you know, um collaborating. It's like they're scouting all over the main social medias that he uses. So it will be Instagram and maybe
well,
Facebook and definitely
okay.
YouTube
I
because he
think
calls
I
us
think
struggle streamers.
I think that's a fair point to make. I have to admit, I wouldn't have
Yeah,
gone there and said that they were, I wouldn't have gone
yeah,
there
they don't
myself.
read.
Okay,
I'm
if you
saying
say
they
so. I
don't
don't,
read.
again, here's the weird part. I didn't know because I never heard from them. And it was
It did.
very odd. It was very strange. You got to keep in mind,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a lot written about Umar online that I'm aware of. There wasn't a lot
Mm-hmm.
done on a critical, other than maybe Lennon Honor and keyboard musician and maybe a couple other people. It just wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And I never heard from. I didn't know what an Umar supporter was like until I saw a video last year, and there were like three of them in somebody's video,
Ooh,
and it was the
they did
first
not
time.
show me.
We're talking 5 years after I wrote this. First time I saw
Right.
an Umar defender or supporter like defend him, and I never came across it. Again, you may be right. I'm not going to touch the whole they can't read part because I don't know. That's not fair for
Right.
me to go. You can do that.
I will.
I know, but because I don't know. I honestly don't know because the only time I saw it was that video. So I can't even judge them because I
Yeah.
didn't know them. Because I was like, because it made me think. I said, how did? That's why I probably thought he was unimportant and really nothing. Because I thought, if this guy's got a following and this guy's got fans and this guy's got supporters, where are they? Because they didn't bother me. They didn't
Yeah, they're
even
all
say
on.
anything to me.
They're on
I
YouTube.
wouldn't have known because I'm
They
like,
scouting
this
our
guy,
videos.
it's like they're keeping mum. But maybe in recent years they become a lot more assertive. I don't know. I'm guessing here because I do know I've been on a couple of lives here in the chat, and I know
Mhm.
that there have been. I think there have been a couple supporters. I don't know who they are, but
Oh yeah, they have
obviously
shown up.
they're critical of you. Yeah.
Yeah, they've shown up. They've shown up in my live stream chat. I mean, like I said, one of them has done a whole video on me. He's actually done 2 or 3 videos on me, but yet they don't
Oh,
believe in the men. Don't believe in attacking women, even though that's exactly what they do. But then they get upset when you say something that they don't like against Umar, not against them, no, against Umar, and it's this cult like mentality. It's like, how dare you attack our cult leader? It's and then they go out and they do videos right back, which I'm on social media, fair game, whatever. But I
mhm.
don't know who they are. I don't care about them. They don't
Right.
pay my bills. They
Oh, I believe
literally
that.
mean nothing
I
to me.
mean, I've seen enough of your
But
live streams to
they
know you
refuse
don't
to read a
care.
book.
Like you don't give a damn. Like you're like, oh, really? That's how you believe? That's what you think? I won't say it, but it. I mean, I believe if you could stick the bird up to these people, you would.
Oh yeah, I do.
I mean, like, I've seen the live streams. You're like, oh, you don't agree? Oh, you little wimp, get out of my sight. I mean, it's like,
Sometimes it's a cult
I mean, it was like
mentality
tough.
here.
I mean, especially the people like what's her name, Candace Owens, and
Oh yeah. Oh my
woo,
God. Her cult following.
those
Jesus.
those
You listen, man. I don't
yeah,
have a choice.
those followers of her are really stupid. They're dumb.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
Why
Thank
are you
you.
going to kick this woman? I don't know much about Candace Owens,
Oh
but
dear Lord.
the only thing I knew about her was that she was a college dropout. I didn't know that she said that she had 2 degrees. I think it was.
Yes.
Did
She
she
said she
claim
has
2 degrees?
two
I'm like,
degrees.
I don't
She
know.
says
I
she
mean,
has
I really
two.
don't know, but I'm like, but because I know she was on that guy, the Joe Rogan show, whatever it's called.
Oh
Um,
God.
and it was very clear that one of the few things I recall about her, and I don't know a lot
Hmm.
about her. I mean, that's very clear. I don't want to.
Hmm.
Um, but that she was a college dropout.
Yeah, she is.
That's my
And the
understanding.
thing, that's the point of it all. It's like the worst part is she said in 2 different videos, because I actually debunked her with those 2 clips, and she said I have 2 degrees, one in journalism and one in English, and these are degrees that she was supposedly or allegedly acquired after she had dropped out from her 3rd year in college at the University of Rhode Island. So I reached out to the school and
Hmm.
I, looked at legally what I could get them to confirm and verify. And the only thing they
Right.
could confirm is if a degree was awarded. So, based on
Okay.
her name that I had at the time, Candace Amber Owens, and then her date of birth, which is public information. They sent me a response back stating that a degree was awarded to a person with that name. Now, seeing that she, you would think, would be one to show her degree,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not as if she goes by a totally different name unless she did. Why wouldn't she just post up her degrees? If you have 2 degrees in
Mm-hmm.
journalism and in English, which is supposed to be along the lines of what you're doing on social media, this is supposed to be kind of like your field of expertise. She calls
Mm-hmm.
herself an investigative journalist, which she's not, but she calls herself
Oh,
that.
really?
Why would you not want? Yeah, I know,
I'm
right?
sorry.
But she calls herself an investigative journalist. It's like, why wouldn't you post your degree in journalism at the very least? And what really got her mad was because Pierce Morgan called her
Mhm.
out in his show when it came to the reading of the Macron lawsuit. And he was like, you're not an investigative journalist. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to read this with indifference to be neutral and impartial. He was like,
Mhm.
I actually went to school for this. You didn't. And then she got snarky. It was like, oh, you tell it, girlfriend. It just all this nonsense. And
Well,
it's
he
like,
was a
look,
newspaper editor. I'm not a fan of Piers Morgan, but he was a newspaper editor. So I know his background. And I'm
yeah,
like, he
he's
was
actually
absolutely correct to
that.
do that.
Yeah,
He's absolutely
exactly.
correct to do
He told
that.
her flat out what the truth is. And she, instead of her just saying, I actually have 2 degrees, let me show you, and have it posted on the back of the wall like anyone else in any profession that's claiming to have this level of education. And you're
Or at least
actually
a
like
copy.
no different than a doctor. If you say, oh, I'm giving my expertise as a doctor here, or it's an
Mhm.
attorney, most times you'll see those degrees hanging on the wall in the video.
I've,
It's like,
I've
okay,
seen it
put your
for
degree up.
people that aren't doctors. I've seen it for people
Right.
that are doctors that hang it on the wall. And of course, there's a
Right.
copy of mine right here.
Yeah. There you
You
go.
know, it's
That's how it's
interesting.
done.
It's interesting you mentioned that because maybe she doesn't want to wind up like Rashad Ritchie. Maybe.
Oh Lord, you think it's a degree meal? You
Yeah,
think it
you
might be a degree
know,
meal?
I don't know. Like I said, no, it's interesting you talk about the degree. Somebody
Yeah, yeah.
here was trying to get me to do something about Rashad Ritchie, and when that Cam James guy did his expose on him, I said, okay, I'll do it.
Oh
I
my
didn't know
God.
much about Rashad
Sorry.
Ritchie, but when I
Oh
looked
Lord.
into, I mean, I just looked him up. I think even on Facebook. That was the thing
Yeah.
that shocked me. I looked him up on Facebook, and it's
Yeah.
a list of all these degrees, and I went, "What the
Say,
hell is this?" I looked at. I'm like, "What?" Wait, let me see my old notebook. Let me see if I still have.
don't tell me you wrote them down.
I wrote them down. I wrote some of these things down.
You
The
wrote down all those
university,
degrees.
the University of Technology.
Dear Lord.
What? You, what?
Oh my God. He ought to
Um,
be ashamed of himself.
the Université de la Renaissance. My French
Oh
is
God.
not spectacular, but
That
okay,
was
which
pretty
I
good.
understand is in Haiti, I believe. Uh,
Yeah.
right. And he supposedly was a physics professor and I believe a deputy chair at the
Y'all.
Paris Graduate School.
Oh dear God.
That's it?
That can't take this further.
Paris Graduate School.
I lost count after two.
Now, I have to confess, I only have a bachelor's degree. I didn't go to grad school. I didn't get a master's and a PhD. But to my knowledge, when it comes to colleges, universities that have grad programs and grad schools,
Uh,
I've never heard
uh-huh.
of a grad school called X City Grad School. Like, if
No.
you go to Los Angeles, you will find Los Angeles City College,
Right, but not Lost Cities.
but not Los
Los Angeles
Angeles
grad school.
Graduate School. Well,
Right.
I went and got my master's from Los Angeles Graduate School. And I lived in Seattle. I lived in LA. I also lived in Seattle. I never heard of a Seattle graduate school when I lived there.
Wow.
I don't think the University of Washington has a Seattle graduate school. They just
No.
have graduate, the names, they just have graduate schools as part of UW.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think the Universidad Empresaria is another school that I guess he went to.
Oh Jesus.
The Asia Pacific School of Business, which I guess he was a dean of, vice chair.
I'm impressed you wrote it
No,
down.
yeah, I did. No, it came up, and I was like,
Believe it.
"What is this? He went to
Woo,
these schools?"
he's
And
such a
the
liar.
Schofield Graduate School in Modesto, California, which is actually a church. It's not a I mean, not unless they got a
Oh my
room they call a
God.
graduate school or a floor they call a graduate school. Um, so look, I
I
don't.
found myself
So
laughing.
I reluctant. So when I saw this, I said, I gotta do a video on this guy. I don't do video. I don't do it's a special video. I don't do it. But if people want to go, they can check out the video. I did
Yeah.
2 videos because one
Oh,
did pretty
good.
well. And the other one, I actually showed my degree. Because the point that I was making about him was where is the degree holder that you have? If you went to these schools and you got a degree,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't give you a folder or something because I
Thank
showed the
you.
degree holder where my degree was in because I keep it in that.
Yeah.
That's what I
Exactly.
do. So
Yep. Most people do. Yeah.
that's and I showed it. I showed my degree. So I said, "Do you have a degree holder?" I mean, he showed it. I guess when he did, he's the host of what is that show? Indisputable.
Yeah, he's lying. You probably had somebody
I
create
knew he
that
was
degree.
lying when
Oh,
I saw when I saw the schools come up. I said, "These schools look like."
lies
I
on
won't say it, but they look like crap. I mean, this, and I didn't. Here's the thing you got to understand.
Oh my God.
I don't know this guy. I didn't know that he had a show on the Young Turks, or
Yeah,
no,
it
I
was
think
on
he
the news.
did, but I knew
Yep.
nothing about him. And what
Yeah.
I found out outside of that, besides the degrees, I went, this guy is a mess.
Yes,
My
he
God,
is.
this guy is.
Yes,
I
he
mean,
is.
on the one hand, if this guy was a piece of crap and tried to turn his life around, I guess
Mm.
that's okay. It's fine. I don't think he turned his life around. I think he found another grift and a con. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Again, I don't
Exactly.
know.
That's
I
all it is.
honestly don't. I honestly, I really don't have anything against this man. I was just told about him by somebody in the chat. I think it was the guy you had on, Johnny Walker
Johnny
Dread or
Walker.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He's
he's
like,
been
why don't you
reporting
look
on
into him?
him.
I'm like, who the hell is this Rashad Ritchie? I
Yeah,
don't know this guy.
he's been reporting on him for a while,
And
and
then,
he
oh,
has
I
a
remember
whole
this
playlist on him. It's
because here was
so
the
good.
interesting part. Here was the
Yeah,
interesting part. Yeah, you had him on about Umar's PhD. Now,
yeah,
when I wrote my piece on Umar, I know there were people trying to get that PhD, that thesis, that dissertation. There are people who really wanted to read that dissertation and couldn't get it.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. That's what makes the
And
Lady Luck Club so awesome. I got it.
even what I saw on your show, and I guess he probably did it on his show too. What I saw on the show with the PhD dissertation, like you gotta understand, I only went as far as a bachelor's degree. I did have to write a senior project. In other schools, other colleges, they call it a senior thesis, right?
Yeah.
So I did have to write like a research paper to graduate. It's either that or like a practicum that you had to graduate from the school I went to. And I looked, I mean, and so even though it was undergrad, I had an advisor because normally, I think with a master's degree and PhD, you have an advisor as well. So I had to have an advisor. We had to meet about it with other students that were doing their senior project. So I do recall a bit of the process. I had to do extensive research. And again, that's an undergraduate research paper.
Yeah.
Major research paper, right?
Right.
Let's call it undergraduate thesis.
Gotcha.
And again, that, I mean, that's probably why I didn't go to grad school. I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to go through this again.
With students loans,
But
you ain't miss anything.
well,
The cost of
that's.
the education
I
is
actually did.
crazy.
I came out of college with zero debt, so I was fine.
There you go. There
Um,
you go.
bachelor's degree with no debt. So I came out great. But I mean, working on. I remember to a to some extent, working on my senior project. So I'm looking at, when you guys are looking at this PhD thesis and you're looking
Mhm.
at this, I have to say, I was like, who approved of this doctoral thesis? Like, I think, again, again, I'm not an
Clown.
expert. I didn't go to grad school. I want to make this very clear. When I was in college, I had an advisor, right? I had an advisor for my senior project, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I know with a PhD, you got to have at least what, 3 people, maybe more,
Yeah. It was a
sign off
three-member
on it.
panel. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
three-member
you got to
panel
have at
for
least that. I think, like people of maybe different disciplines. I don't recall, but I've read PhD theses, so I'll say that. But like,
mhm.
I honestly was like, I don't know. I was curious, like, who is this guy's advisor?
Oh my
Why did
God.
they sign off on this PhD thesis? I have to say I was underwhelmed by it. And again, I'm not an
Yeah.
expert on PhD thesis. So let me make that very clear. I don't know if there are any Umar supporters in the chat or
Oh, child.
backers of
They know.
him or whatever. But look,
Hold on. Let me say this to the Umar Tardians. You all know I could care less about how you feel. So
yes,
I don't worry
that's what
about
I
them.
said.
I don't care how
I've
they
said
feel.
that before. I've seen the live streams. I've seen how you're like, yeah, just get out of my life. Like
I
you
could care
need to
less how
shut
you
up.
feel.
I don't need I don't care what you have to say.
They'll be fine.
Um yeah. So, I looked at it and I'm like, no wonder this was kept hidden away for I don't know
Because
how
it's
many
god awful.
years.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, no, and again, I'm approaching it from my limited experience. I understand undergrad. I'm an undergrad. I had to
Mhm.
write a senior project. That's where I'm approaching
Mhm.
it from. And I'm going, is this allowed with a PhD thesis? Because I never wrote one. I didn't even go and get a master's degree. I'm just going, I used to, I mean, I've read PhD theses and,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, his was. I. It makes
who?
me wonder. Like when I first read it,
Mhm.
Jay Witt and I went over it. And he's a retired. I think he's a retired teacher. And the first thing we said was like the grammar. Oh, the grammar is painful to read. And then Johnny Walker
I
Dredd,
had to rewrite
he
my
is.
senior. I had to
Oh
constantly
man.
write and rewrite my project. That's why I didn't understand the whole.
Oh yeah.
I
And
guess
Johnny.
the prose issues and the
Mhm.
syntax and I guess the grammar or whatever. Like I had to write that and write it. Like I had to go through drafts of it.
Yeah.
So did this
Yeah.
guy do like
You would think.
drafts?
No.
Like like how did he just write one draft
I
of a
think he
PhD thesis?
I think
I
he
honestly
did
don't know.
one.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I I think he did one draft, and what he did was he just kind of saved it on a computer because this is back in 2012. So he would have been able to
Okay.
like type this up, maybe save a draft online, and then he kind of just cut and paste, certain parts, especially the information about what is supposed to be his exhibits, supporting documentation, his resources he's citing. He kind of cut and paste that in. And when Johnny Walker Dredd, who's absolutely genius, he went through it, he could even pull out like what looked like copy and paste of the data. And it was just like, dude, this is
Yeah, I heard
why.
there were issues with the data. I remember
Yeah,
watching that.
it was big issues with the
And
data.
I didn't major in mathematics, so don't get me started.
Oh yeah, I know.
I was
You
gonna
didn't
get.
need
I
you
went
don't
to
need to know it was horrible.
yeah. I,
It's
I was
horrible.
gonna. I went to a college where you could get 2 degrees at the same time. I was gonna go get also a degree basically in economics, but
Okay.
I was like, oh, statistics like a pre-course in statistics, no thanks.
Oh yeah, I had to
I'll
take
stick to
that.
the degree.
It was his data was horrible, and
Yeah,
it
I
seemed
heard
like
there
it
were
was just
problems with
kind of
it.
copy. Yeah, it was copy to paste from somebody else's thesis. It was just terrible. And the first thing I said is, how much did he pay these advisors to pass him? Because there is no way he
Wow.
actually like if
Well,
he
see, that's
had
what
to
I was
just
wondering. I'm like,
go on
how
a
did this get past?
yeah on the skirt of his hard work. No, he wouldn't have passed
Like,
not on his own.
there's no way. Again,
Mm-mm.
again, I didn't write just one draft of my senior project. I had to write like two, three. Can't remember how many. It was a long time ago, but I remember having to you go through it and you write it and you write it and
Yeah,
I
no.
don't get how this guy got away with that. I mean, did he write more than one draft of this? I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah,
um, yeah,
but I
that
mean,
was when I saw it. I was, you know, the data part was interesting.
oh
That
yeah,
he kind of had
it
issues
was
with the data.
pretty bad, but that kind of goes to show overall his, the level of his intellect with this. You're talking about something that's standard and rudimentary to get a
Mhm.
degree in child psychology, and your whole perception of the education you have learned in this field comes down to you doing this thesis, and this is what you produced. This is what you gathered up and turned in to get a degree. Like it is almost unimaginable, and it's no wonder why it was hidden.
Yeah,
But
that's what
you
I'm
know,
gathering.
it is that kind of shows you, now that 20 plus years, like what is this, 2014 years later, look what we got here, going from 2012 to 2026. Look what look what we see now in this Umar is someone who would rather just go out and just kind of fake it till you make it with this con game about saying I'm going to open up a school and still do nothing. It's like, what has
Well,
he
that's
accomplished?
important to him.
He's
Well, see, but
accomplished nothing.
right. But that's all a part of, I believe, his strategy because the more he
Yeah.
does, the more he'll be held accountable, the more he'll be held responsible specifically. So it's actually easier for him to do little to nothing. In fact, it's better for him to do little to nothing because
Yeah.
there will be little to nothing for him to be held liable for.
Yeah. And that's
And
and
I
that's
believe
what
that's
we
fine.
to conclude and wrap this up, because I have another live I got to get to after this, but
Okay.
just to summarize, just at this point, do you think that three, let's say 2 years from now,
Hmm.
we'll probably be saying the same thing, saying the
Probably,
same thing about Umar? But what
right.
do you think is going to happen with the result of these alleged investigations that's supposed to be going on, and now there's supposed to be a lot more scrutiny into how he spent money? What you think is going to come out of that?
I
What are your
if
thoughts?
there are investigations, then the question is going to be what are the results going to be? Again, there have been, I kind of broke down, I think, three component parts into why kind of what Umar has done and why he's been able to kind of survive and kind of
Mm-hmm.
persist in regards to a presence online and in
Mm-hmm.
general. Um, I think I think fundamentally it's going to have to come down. I mean, what will happen in regards to Umar? I think it's hard to predict right now.
Hmm.
I think what will happen, I think the only way that he's going to pay a price will be something unexpected.
Okay.
I think it's going to be out of the
Okay.
blue, something beyond his control, and something that probably not too many people expected. And it'll happen, and you know, he'll end up wherever he'll end up. But
Hmm.
I would say I didn't. The only thing that I predicted, the only thing I said about Umar definitively, besides my assessments, my assessment and conclusions in my article back in 2020 was he was a con artist and engaged in a long con,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that persists and that continues.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's going, like I said, the title of my article: "Catch him if you can."
Catch me. Listen, we're gonna make
Catch him if you
sure
can.
that everybody check out Catch Me If You Can. Oh man, that kind of sums up him perfectly with this scammer. I want to
Oh,
thank you for coming
yeah.
back into the LLC and
Oh, no
hanging
problem.
out
No
with us
problem.
and chopping it
Okay.
up and being able to
No,
talk
no
about,
problem.
Umar and Candace and all these, Rashad Ritchie, who knew?
Right. Well, Candace, I'm
People
not
that
interested in, so I don't know much about her, but yeah, she's
but I
crazy.
appreciate you
By the
coming on.
way,
You guys go ahead.
right. Thanks for having me. I was glad because the first time I was on here, there was a lot of tech issues or problems, but
Oh yeah, we did.
I'm glad everything worked out. Everything was great, and I know you're getting ready to go off now. I don't know if there are any questions. You mentioned that there might be some questions. Are there
Any
any
questions?
questions?
I haven't seen any questions from the
Okay.
audience, but if you all have any questions, if not now, be sure to email me and I will forward them over to Albert. I'm just scrolling up through the chat and I don't see any
Okay.
major questions, but you guys make sure you go and read Catch Me If You Can. He also has a
Yeah.
Substack that
Yeah.
that I pinned into the chat. Go check it out and support it. He also has a YouTube channel. At
That's
Writer
right.
Albert Lanier on YouTube. Make sure you guys go and check
Right.
out his YouTube channel and show him some
And
support
let me
there.
just I'll just say this briefly
Go ahead.
before I leave, because I
Uh-huh.
know that you've been dealing with this Marianne Lorient situation. So let me just
Yeah.
say this about it. I'll try to wrap this up as quickly as I can about her. I found out about her actually after I had done the interview. Not on this channel, but on another channel about
Mm-hmm.
Umar. That's where I found out about the film, Awaken, I think it's called, and her situation. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be really honest. I thought it was a little interesting. I thought Umar's doing a movie. I thought when it rains, it pours. But I thought she'd be an interesting person because at last year, when all this was going out about Umar and all this was happening about Umar,
Mm-hmm.
I was open to being interviewed, and so I did a couple interviews, including on your channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there was a little bit of contact information on her channel. I saw a video or two of hers. I thought it might be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to talk to her because she's a filmmaker. I write about films in my newsletter and deal with movies.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting to get that perspective. So I thought it would be interesting to have her interview me. And I think I emailed her. In fact, I know that I tried to contact her. I didn't hear back from her, and I just figured she's not interested and moved on. And then when I heard about all this that was happening, I have to be honest. I'm glad I never got in touch with this woman. I'm glad I never
Yeah.
spoke to her. I never contacted this woman. And again, I didn't know anything about her. And she represented herself, I guess, as a victim of Umar, someone who was being attacked by him and he was
Mm-hmm.
trying to get her phone blocked.
Right.
I have to be very
Yep.
honest. From what I've seen, from what I've been seeing in the past couple days, the
Mm-hmm.
conclusion that I have to come up with is that this woman is an opportunist and a
Yeah.
possible con artist. Again, it may be like, well, that's a
Opportunities
quick
for sure.
conclusion. I have to make quick conclusions when it comes to the internet. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you're dealing with these people on the internet, because you see a lot of chicanery and a lot of deception, a lot of BS go on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube and on the internet. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're
Oh, I'm
good.
not sorry. It's sorry that she did this. You can't show a check that has at the bottom a disclaimer that says this is not a check and not intended for like my question to that would be why did she show the stub? Did she show a picture? Showed a picture of the stub. Did she show a picture of the stub?
She showed a picture of the front and back, but not the stub, and no other document.
So she showed the front and back.
Yeah.
What was? Oh, okay. So on the back,
The
oh,
back, get this now, the back was
right.
the back of a real check, and the front was the advertisement
So
from
maybe
that legacy home buyer.
she kind of did a picture of the front and then maybe took another check and did the back.
Yep, that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because my understanding is that comes from a builder's, like a building company, some
Yeah, it
builders or
was
something like that.
legacy home buyers, and they sent
Legacy
out.
home buyer. Okay.
Yeah, they
Now,
just go out and fish around to try to buy houses.
right,
But I
like they're
mean,
buying up homes,
sure,
I guess, so that they can
yeah,
convert it into something else.
yeah,
So if that's an advertising prop, I've seen that with credit cards. If that's an
mhm,
advertising prop,
yeah, advertising.
like, wouldn't she have known to? What little I saw was like this was covered up and that was covered up. Why didn't he cover up the other part?
Yeah, you would think, right?
I don't
That's a good
understand that.
question.
Like, I don't
I've been
get it.
asking that question for a week.
Right. And I would say if this were what I found out recently is this woman said that she got the check from, I guess, a law firm.
Oh, that's what she claims. First, she said it came from
Yeah.
a law firm. Then she said it
Right.
came from Umar himself, and then she said it was a
Oh.
cashier's check from an attorney. And we still, I mean, it's like what? And then she
Well,
said
if
there was
it
a
came from a
deposit to
law
some other
firm,
woman's account.
right?
It's
If
like
it
what?
came from a law firm, you would probably have something like I would assume there'd be like a stub. Normally, checks.
Right.
Like I said, I was a writer. I've been a writer for 31 years. I get a check.
Yeah.
There's a stub attached to it, unless it's like a
Exactly.
personal check. I've gotten
Yeah.
personal checks. I got
Exactly.
all kinds of checks. I don't want to go into a discourse on checks, but I'm going because I'm telling you, if this came from a law firm, there was no stub attached to it. It's like what
Never
on
showed a
some
stub.
lawyer's personal account or something like that. I
Exactly.
don't think so.
Never showed a stub. Said it was a
That
certified letter that came with the check via mail. Then she said a cashier's check, and then she said it was a deposit that went into some other woman's account. So the fact that she's giving us three different payment methods lets me know that she's
it
lying.
sounds it sounds like he's lying.
She's
It's gone. It's
lying.
again. It seems to have gone from the caterpillar to the pupae to the
Ooh,
butterfly,
child.
or backwards. It's gone from well, this can't happen in real life, but if it could, and maybe that's why it's BS. Went from the butterfly to the pupae to the caterpillar, which is
Right.
impossible. But again, that's I'm like she's giving three kinds of payment methods.
Yep. She's giving three different stories with three different payment methods. And it's like, girl, just give it up.
And I heard a little of her on the Lennon Honor show or program
Oh
or
yeah,
channel,
Leonard, yeah. Yeah, Leonard, yeah.
and
Oh, and she
and the
yelled and
way
screamed.
that she came off to me was like she was.
Ugh.
I mean, I was like, why did she need to get that mad? I mean, like, okay, if she's she's irritated, I can understand that, but I'm like, she just seemed to be almost yelling. I mean, I don't know how he put up with
She
it.
did.
I don't know how Lennon put
She,
up with it, but
she yelled and
I
screamed.
mean, what it reminded me of is the novel and the movie, The Cane Mutiny. She reminded me of Captain Queeg. She's fixated, and
Yeah.
that people can check that out if they don't know what I mean by it.
Oh yeah.
But in that movie, Captain Queeg was talking about the
Mhm.
strawberry incident and how he handled it when he was a younger officer and all this. I'm like, she gives me Captain Queeg vibes. This Marianne Lorient, she really
Yeah.
does. Like something about so I have to be honest and I have to say I'm glad I never got in contact with her or that there was no contact. I'm glad we didn't speak. I'm glad we didn't deal with each other. I'm very happy about that. It just
Oh yeah.
what I've seen is a mess for this woman, and I really have questions. I don't know if this woman is a so-called victim of Umar or somebody in league with Umar.
Who knows? That's, I mean, and
I
I
don't
think that's
know.
what, some of the information that's come
Yeah.
out is kind of putting her more along the lines with someone that Umar may have sent to be a distraction, which
I'm beginning to think
it's
that. I was
it,
beginning to think that myself.
it's just
Like
like
something
it's
doesn't add up.
yeah, it's so ironic And, at the point where there's this drum of him being under, allegedly under investigation, and now all of a sudden you get this woman come out of nowhere. After people are putting their foot on his neck and holding him accountable. We've got the
Mhm.
dissertation. We're trying to figure out, if his mother is alive and okay. And then she just comes out the woodwork with this movie that she's already made. Get this, from
Yeah,
2023,
that was
that had
that was
already
what.
premiered.
Yeah, I heard it
And
already
she's
came out.
re-premiering it.
So
It's
I'm
like,
like,
what are you doing later? Like, this
you
is a
know,
2-year-old movie.
I just found that out that it already came out in 2023. I was under the
Yeah.
impression that it just came out last year,
No,
but
it
I was
came out
like,
in 2023. And it's
really?
like, why are you yes, it's been out for well, now almost going on 3 years, but the
Yeah.
idea that you made this movie already, it premiered already and allegedly in theaters, and then you turn around in 2025 and then you kind of come to YouTube with this burst of energy, like, it, oh, well, here's a film, I've been sitting on it, sort of thing. And it's like, well, we never heard of it in 2023, and Umar's supposed to be popular. Go figure. Funny how someone who was supposed to be, an incognito celebrity had a movie made about him that he's in as the main character as himself, and
And
no
I
one
heard
heard of
that
it, and we
he
got no traction
decided
on
that
it.
he was going to play himself. Someone else was going to be
Yeah,
hired to play himself. And I thought,
exactly.
that sounds like Umar.
Exactly.
The
Yeah,
the
and he
pomposity and grandiosity of Umar.
yes, thank you. Yep. And you would think that movie would have gotten so much more buzz because he's in it and
I
playing
just found
himself.
out about it last
But
year.
look how
I'm sorry to
thank you.
interrupt you.
No
I
one
don't want
knew
to be
about it.
rude. I don't want to be rude.
No one knew about that movie. It was horrible.
I didn't know about it, but again, I'm not. I'm writing about movies myself, so I'm like, of course,
Let
movies
us
from the
know when
past,
you're done
like
on a
real
review on that
movies.
movie.
Not, I'm not saying that isn't a real movie, but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know about it when I found out. I said, "You got to be kidding me, Umar in a
Yep.
movie like
Yep.
like that when it can't get any worse than that." Well, it can always
Oh,
get
it
worse when
can't.
it comes to Umar. But yeah,
Terrible.
you know, I think your point is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Again, I never spoke to the lady. I never was able to get in contact with her.
Hmm.
So I have to be brutally honest. I
You
don't
got
think
to.
this Marianne Lorient has absolutely any credibility. I'm sorry, but and
You got to.
again, I have nothing against the woman, but she doesn't have any credibility whatsoever.
I agree. I agree, and you dodged the bullet there. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it.
I did. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
you definitely,
she could have been suing
I
me. I don't know.
exactly.
I don't know. She would have. She
Well,
could have wanted a judgment of, I don't know, $69,000. I don't know. I don't know.
child, who knows? This is, I
That's
mean, and
yeah,
that's the, if that is someone that is closely aligned with him, and this is what she's willing to
yeah.
do all over YouTube. Imagine, like, dealing with the real deal. I mean, Umar
Something
has to
smells
be
about it. Something smells about it. Like
exactly.
something didn't make sense.
Yeah.
She's making content. That was what I was told initially. Like,
Yep.
why? I thought Umar was attacking this woman. Why is she making content about him? And
Yep.
then I about this fake check. I'm like, a fake check. I'm
Who
like
knows?
that was the weird part. Wait,
Yep.
she's putting up a fake check, and then that she had called the guy. But I guess she had been in contact with Umar. Like what? So this guy's attacking
Yeah.
you and trying to besmirch you, and
Right.
I don't
And he's
know.
suing you for half a million
Right,
dollars, and then you
that's
go and
it. Right,
call
I
him.
did hear that. I heard it today. Yeah, I heard that
Yep.
today. But it was like half a million, and
Yeah.
you're gonna get a judgment from him of $68,000.
That
I
was
don't know.
supposed to have been from a some quasi settlement, but who knows? There's no documentation that there was even a lawsuit filed because she
So there
said she
was
was
no
hurt.
lawsuit filed. No papers about a
No, there
lawsuit filed.
wasn't. Exactly. There's no court documents on it, and I would have been able to get it.
Yeah,
So it's nothing on file. And she just to
right.
think that she wanted to concoct this whole thing up is really a distraction from the fact that he still cannot get this school open, and it will not be open because he won't pass an inspection. So all of that for nothing. That's what it comes down to. But we
I
enjoy
don't, you know, you
talking
may
about
be
it. I have a good laugh on
right. You may be right about it. I don't know. I
him.
don't know why she did what she did. I just know something. I can't rule out collusion, and I'm not going to say it is collusion,
Mm.
but something about it just did it. It smelled to me. I like, and again, I didn't
That's
know much
fine.
about this woman, but I
Oh,
was
wow,
like,
that's a good term.
something doesn't add up with this. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sorry, she's an
Oh yeah.
opportunist. I think she's a probable con artist. Like
Yeah.
something's wrong with her. I don't know what it is, but she's like she's giving me Captain Queeg vibes. That's all I have to say about it. That's
Well,
it.
you all keep that in Captain Quig in mind, and check out Albert's YouTube
All
channel,
right.
Substack, and recatch me if you can. Thank you so much, Albert, for
Thank
joining
you.
us again.
I took some more time. Sorry about that. But
No, you're good. You're good. But thank you so
yeah.
much. I appreciate it all. And we're going to use that term collusion in the next title video. Thank you.
Fine by me.
All right. You guys tell Albert good night, and I'll bid them good night, and I'll drop you down. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.
Goodbye, folks. Nice to be here.
Y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in. And shout out to Albert. I appreciate all of you all. Listen, if the documents don't exist, you must have quit. Oh, shout out to Johnny Cochran for that one. He gave us the punchline of the century. If it doesn't fit, if the documents don't exist, you must have quit. Y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm gonna go live separately. I see a couple comments flowing about something with Paramount Tactical. I have no idea what's going on. All I saw yesterday was that he gave me a shout out and you know asked for me to I wanted me to join this platform, which I'm more than happy to do. I just have no idea what's happening, so I want to go live separately on that because I don't want to blend it on this one, and then we'll go over. Oh Lord, just so we can have a good giggle. Part of Rim Rum's live stream. He did a whole nother live stream about this whole new storyline on Marianne Lorient talking about a cashier's check. I just can't believe it. So we'll go over that in the next live. And you know, you guys can let me know what's happening with this Paramount Tactical and what's going on with X. Because I have no idea. I haven't checked out all of the notifications or anything. But either way, let me go live on that one separately. And you guys come back and let me know what's happening here. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank y'all so much. Hit the like button on the way out. Leave your questions and comments and thoughts below. If you want to email me questions for Albert Lanier, email me at ladyluckclub LLC at yahoo.com. And until the next one, I will see you all in a minute. Deuces.